Mexico, Poland, Venezuela and Sudan. Long lines of UN vehicles and buses were also seen leaving Khartoum towards Port Sudan on the Red Sea, reportedly carrying citizens from across the globe. The constant shooting and bombing in Khartoum has cut electricity and safe access to food and water for much of the city's population, estimated at 6 million people. The World Health Organization said the fighting has killed more than 400 people and injured thousands, although the death toll is believed to be much higher as most of the city's healthcare facilities have been forced to close.
A total of 12 COVID-19 cases involving the XBB.1.16 subvariant, also known as Acturus, have been detected in Malaysia. Health Minister Dr. Zaliha Mustafa says 6 cases were reported in Sarawak, 4 in Selangor and 2 in Kuala Lumpur.
As of April 2nd, Acturus is present in 31 countries, including Malaysia. The subvariant's presence in Malaysia was first recorded in March, but Zaliha said the situation was under control and that the country's health facilities were not under any pressure. She added that the risk of infections and ongoing cases due to Acturus was lower than its predecessor, the XBB.1.5 subvariant. The World Health Organization recently upgraded Acturus to a variant of interest due to its estimated growth advantage over other circulating subvariants and its ability to evade the immune system. It was first detected in India in January, where it is believed to have fueled a recent surge in infections.
Malaysia is bracing itself for hazy days ahead as the weather shifts to hot and dry conditions in the coming months. Heng Kia-chun from Greenpeace Southeast Asia outlines some of the contributing factors to the haze spell.
Most of the haze in Southeast Asia is caused by the peatland and forest fire, and there are peat fire in Malaysia and outside Malaysia. And transboundary haze is not just from Indonesia, it's also from other Southeast Asian countries. So, for example, the reasons transboundary haze are directly related to the growth of monoculture agriculture in the Thailand and in the neighboring country. So the land clearing for plantations cause all this peatland to become dry and vulnerable to fire. So with this deforestation and drainage, the water table is lower, preventing further carbon intakes. And once it's exposed to the air, and then all these peat soil start to decompose. So with dry out peats come in at the risk of forest fire, it creates more haze. And the return of hot and dry weather by El Nino phenomenon is making the haze situation even worse.
The haze has been a recurring environmental issue for Malaysia, dating back several decades. Heng explores several long-term solutions to effectively tackle the long-standing air pollution.
We have 3 solutions. The first one is restore peatland. The solution is fire prevention, not just firefighting. So protect, restore and reflood peatland can solve the root cause of all this peat fire and even transboundary haze. And there are many organizations are doing it right now, and we need to do more. So we need to stop peatland destructions and start restoring peatlands. The second one, what company needs to do? Many global brand and company, they have a supply chain management policy that meets NDP commitments, also known as no deforestation, no peat, no exploitations. That means that no implementing new development on peatlands, encouraging best practices on existing lands, but not all the company follow to these commitments. So therefore, company must stop forest and peatland clearance, start restoring peatland and demand the same to their supplier. So the third one is what governments need to do. Government in ASEAN, Southeast Asian countries can work together to enact their own domestic Transboundary Haze Pollution Act. And this act was the first concrete step follow the ASEAN Agreement on Transboundary Haze Pollution 2002, an agreement which was ratified in Kuala Lumpur with Malaysia as its first signatory.
What measures can the public take to help alleviate this problem, and how crucial is it to have a Transboundary Haze Act in place?
The public can share in social media, start asking their member parliament to enact a law on transboundary haze. This is because a number of Malaysians' own companies were pinpointed for causing forest fire in Indonesia in the past few years. That is why having a Transboundary Haze Act can provide a legal ground to institutionalize check and balance to ensure that Malaysian companies are not contributing to haze locally and abroad. As we know, Malaysia tabled its own Trans-Boundary Haze Pollution Act in September 2019. However, in August 2020, after the change of governments, the new leadership announced its decisions to abandon the act, citing the sovereignty concern and a need for ASEAN regional corporations. Actually, diplomatic cooperations among governments in Southeast Asia can coexist with law that hold domestic companies responsible for international misconduct that affect the regions. We can develop a two-pronged approach that combines diplomacy and actions-oriented accountability that would strengthen our government strategy in tackling the haze issue in the long run. The forest fire and haze pollution are man-made disasters that could have been avoided. Like what we can see right now is rich company got the benefits, whereas the poor people are suffering. This is climate injustice. So stopping forest fire and demanding clean air is at the heart of international climate change agreements.
Let's go for a quick break. Stay tuned for more. Welcome back. Global military spending rose for the 8th consecutive year to an all-time high of $2.24 trillion in 2022. According to a new report by the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which began in February last year, has prompted European countries to rush to bolster their defenses.
While global military spending rose by 3.7% in real terms in 2022, European military spending rose by 13% last year, mainly due to increases by Russia and Ukraine, with many countries across the continent also increasing and planning to increase their military budgets amid rising tensions. Some of the largest increases were seen in Finland, 36%, Lithuania, 27%, and Sweden, 12%. The United States remains by far the world's biggest military spender. U.S. military spending reached $877 billion in 2022, accounting for 39% of total global military expenditure and 3 times the amount spent by China, the world's second-largest spender, at $292 billion. Japan's military spending increased by 5.9% to reach $46 billion, the highest level since 1960. Japan plans to strengthen its military capabilities over the next decade in response to growing threats from China, North Korea and Russia.
Australia has unveiled its biggest military reform in decades today, refocusing its armed forces on deterring potential enemies before they reach its shores. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, when launching the long-awaited strategic review by the Defence.
What's the latest scoop when it comes to companies, markets and strategies? For everything business and tech-related, catch Notepad with me, Ibrahim Sani, weekdays 10:30 p.m. across all AWANI platforms.
Welcome back. Global military spending rose for the 8th consecutive year to an all-time high of $2.24 trillion in 2022. According to a new report by the Stockholm International Peace Research Institute, Russia's invasion of Ukraine, which began in February last year, has prompted European countries to rush to bolster their defenses.
While global military spending rose by 3.7% in real terms in 2022, European military spending rose by 13% last year, mainly due to increases by Russia and Ukraine, with many countries across the continent also increasing and planning to increase their military budgets amid rising tensions. Some of the largest increases were seen in Finland, 36%, Lithuania, 27%, and Sweden, 12%. The United States remains by far the world's biggest military spender. U.S. military spending reached $877 billion in 2022, accounting for 39% of total global military expenditure and 3 times the amount spent by China, the world's second-largest spender, at $292 billion. Japan's military spending increased by 5.9% to reach $46 billion, the highest level since 1960. Japan plans to strengthen its military capabilities over the next decade in response to growing threats from China, North Korea and Russia.
Australia has unveiled its biggest military reform in decades today, refocusing its armed forces on deterring potential enemies before they reach its shores. Prime Minister Anthony Albanese, when launching the long-awaited strategic review by the Defence Ministry, said that Australia will prioritise developing the ability to strike targets at longer ranges.
The 110-page Defence Strategic Review comes amid increasing regional tension over China's stance towards Taiwan, where it has repeatedly vowed to use force if necessary. For the last 5 decades, Australia's defence policy has been aimed at deterring and responding to potential low-level threats from small or middle-power neighbours. The government will now spend some $12 billion to deliver the report's immediate recommendations, which also suggested domestic production of guided weapons. Other recommendations include improving the force's ability to operate from Australia's northern bases and to deepen defence partnerships with key partners in the Indo-Pacific region such as India and Japan. Australia would also work closely with the US, including increased bilateral military planning, joint patrols and hosting more rotations of US forces.
Credit Suisse Group said it suffered $69 billion in outflows in the first 3 months of 2022, revealing the scale of the bank run that triggered its state-backed bailout. The speed at which clients were abandoning the banking giant was the main reason why Swiss authorities stepped in last month to orchestrate a rescue sale to UBS.
In its first quarter results released on Monday, Credit Suisse said that the outflows have moderated, but have not yet reversed as of April 24, 2023. This means that Credit Suisse is still bleeding cash, highlighting the scale of the task UBS now faces after acquiring its Swiss rival. The UBS takeover is expected to be completed in the coming months. Credit Suisse's clients began pulling money out of the bank after it was caught up in the market turmoil that followed the collapse of Silicon Valley Bank and Signature Bank in the US in March. Swiss authorities put together a rescue package for Credit Suisse that included more than 200 billion francs in financial guarantees, and UBS agreed to take over Credit Suisse. Credit Suisse has been making losses and had faced a series of problems in recent years, including allegations of money laundering.
That wraps up AWANI Tonight. I'm Cynthia Ng. Thank you for watching and good night.